My belief when I was diagnosed was my life will always be just a little bit worse with MS. Like, there's no way I can have as good of a life. And recognizing that, I decided I don't want to believe that because what we think we become. And so if I believe that, I will create a life that is a little bit worse. And so it started with a thought that I practiced for years of, you know what, Amy, it's possible my life doesn't have to be worse. Your actions will change when you're thinking and feeling in different ways, leaning towards more of a life that you want.
What if I told you that feeling good has less to do with willpower and more to do with how you design your habits? When you're living with a chronic illness or autoimmune condition, it's easy to feel like you're constantly starting over. One flare-up and the routine collapses. One low energy week and you question everything. But here's what today's guest, Amy Behimer, wants us to know. How you think and feel is more in your control than you've been led to believe. Not your diagnosis, not your genetics, your skill set. Today, Amy is going to walk us through how to build habits that are balanced, science-backed, and actually work with our energy and momentum instead of against it. You won't hear any extremes, no guilt, no morning routines, just a smarter approach to consistency. And we end up in an unexpected place that I think the world can use a whole lot more of. On to the episode. Welcome to the Mindful Trainer podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Webb, and my guest today, Amy Behimer, lives at the intersection of science, habits, and real life with a chronic condition. She's a doctor of pharmacy, board-certified health and wellness coach, and someone living with multiple sclerosis, which means she doesn't just teach about health, she practices it daily in a body that doesn't always cooperate. That lived experience deeply shapes how she coaches, teaches, and shows up in the world. Amy, welcome to the Mindful Trainer.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's a pleasure to have another fellow podcaster on the show.
I know it's kind of a little subculture, isn't it?
I look at it as a way to connect with peers and colleagues in the country who I might not otherwise be able to meet and learn from. And I'm looking forward to this conversation today because you live with multiple sclerosis. And if we can just start there with that diagnosis as an entry point, I just want to hear that story. And what was it like for you to be diagnosed with that?
Yes. So if anybody's not familiar, multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune condition, often called MS for short, and it really shaped my life in the last 14 years in so many ways. And I know that if anybody's dealing with a diagnosis, especially towards the beginning, you do not want to hear, oh, you'll be grateful for this one day, or it can teach you so much. And, when I start working with clients, I am very, cautious of trying to put that perspective on people. And so I'll have people that say, I just don't think I'm ever going to get there. And I say, you don't need to get there. It's okay. But I really do believe that it has shaped me in some beautiful ways. I was 27 when I was diagnosed 14 years ago, and it really rocked my world. I mean, it was a life quake like no other. And it might have had something to do with the fact that I was well-versed and well-educated on the human body and what can go right with it and what could go wrong with it. And there's a lot of scary words associated with MS. It's progressive, it's neurodegenerative, it's chronic, it's debilitating at times. And so when I was diagnosed, it really sent me into an overdrive of almost proving that I could still be healthy. With physical activity, I was a runner at the time, and that was a big part of my diagnosis story. The running is actually what revealed that the multiple sclerosis was happening. And so I was moving more, I was eating what anybody else would say is perfect, and I was going, and I felt less and less healthy. Almost the healthier my habits got from the outside textbook version, the more unhealthy and really ultimately unhappy I felt. And so it wasn't until I realized that, wow, mindset is a huge part of this. How I'm thinking and feeling and how I treat my body, how I listen to my body was something that I really had to learn and get good at to be able to ensure I could still have the life that I wanted with this diagnosis.
I imagine it was a landslide.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was. I mean, it's just I I think that diagnoses can be such a turning point, and we need to allow ourselves the grief when they come. But when we feel like we're in a place to build from there, it can be such a beautiful point to say, okay, we have this diagnosis. And for me, what I offer is now how can I become healthier and happier after? And giving that problem to solve, how is this possible, puts our brain to work to come up with solutions that we maybe never would have thought of. And that's really when we can start to change the direction of our health and our life.
Almost, it sounds like, to use the term, like, self-efficacy, like we have some control
Absolutely.
when control has been taken away with a diagnosis like that.
Yeah, self-efficacy is so it's funny you say that. It's so important to me because it often a measure that they use when they study in the research the impact that coaching can have on chronic conditions. I'm a board certified health and wellness coach, and so there is more and more data and research being done, and I've been a part of a couple studies proving that, and we always measure self-efficacy because when we have that little voice in our head that says, "You can do this," or "This matters," that's how I like to describe self-efficacy is just that voice that is rooting you on. When we have higher levels of that self-efficacy, we are healthier, we're more productive, we're happier, our bodies function better. I mean, there's no downside to learning what self-efficacy is and finding a way to put yourself in situations that help build it.
That's really neat. I did not know that you could measure it like that.
Yeah, yeah, there's a couple scales that you can use. Overall, if you are you kinda will know it. There's a few things, like, if you feel like a task comes up or, a challenge comes up and you find that, "Wow, I can really do this," that's a good sign that you are, building self-efficacy and that it's getting stronger.
Like that, like, I see things as a challenge, not a threat, right? Like going to the
Absolutely.
fear response and that part of the brain and the nervous system.
Yeah, and it's not something you have or don't have. I think that can sometimes
Mhm.
be a misconception. There are, 4 or 5 key strategies to build self-efficacy, and we can measure that it actually can improve. I measure self-efficacy when people start coaching with me and then check it again at 6 months and at 12 months, and we can see that that marches upward, and again, I almost don't even need to say, "Oh, look at these numbers," because people can feel the difference.
Bet so.
Yeah,
I bet so. Wow, what a great tool to have in your toolkit to be able to offer that as a coach.
absolutely.
You have a position that I really resonate with. Uh,
I
it's
hear it.
it's that how we think and feel is more in our control than we realize. And I think that short conversation on self-efficacy kind of reflects that, right? Like, maybe that's the word that measures that we do have a little bit of control over this, and I know that I believe it in concept, I've experienced it, and I'll admit, as someone who also has a chronic illness, sometimes I struggle with the implementation of knowing that I have control over how I feel. I might not exhibit it outwardly to others, but, like, I have an expectation that I feel good in my body, and when I don't, it can, like, my brain's negativity bias, I've finally realized that that's what's going on, and it helps me realize, like, I am wired to see things going wrong. I'm wired this way. That's how my ancestors survived. That's how I got here. Now, this is where I'm gonna let you take the mic now. Show me my next step forward, Amy.
It's a tall order, but I'm here for it. I can do it. And to sound cliche, you're not alone. I saw once there was how do you know ChatGPT is writing this thing? And it's all the ChatGPT phrases. And one of them is, you are not alone. And I thought, uh-oh, because I do say that. It's not ChatGPT. I really do like to say to people, if they're not used to sharing things that they're going through in a group setting, it can be easy to think, I am the only one who thinks this. And there are so many things like this where I know logically, in your brain that there's this negativity bias, but how do we take knowing something in our brain and actually believing it and knowing it in our bones or in our body? And the way that made the most sense for me when I was getting into this is the way I teach it now, because I am a scientist at heart and I really love when we have research that can give us confidence in a certain way of doing something. And the research behind habits and habit change is so rocks. There are authors and researchers that are studying the way humans can change in a way that's sustainable and lasts. And so what I've done over the last decade is I've borrowed from that body of research instead of only thinking of habits as what we do. So how do we move? How do we rest? I am inviting everybody to consider that how we think and how we feel, that's also habitual. So those thoughts that our brain go to, the negative side, the negativity bias, it's just that those tracks in our brain have been well worn, and it's the habitual thought that becomes a belief. In the same way, our body is really comfortable in the chemical fingerprint of a certain emotion because it's what we've been doing habitually. And we will go to those negative, uncomfortable feelings because it's a habit, and it's oddly comfortable because it's familiar. And so the first step is recognizing, where are these thoughts and feelings? And we can look at them either together, or some people really identify as, I think this versus I feel this. So whichever one I would say for you, do you think more in, or do you respond more in what you're thinking or what you're feeling? And we identify, okay, what are those habitual thoughts and feelings? And identify those first so that we can see where we're starting. And then we get to kind of play in the land of, if we were going to build a new habitual thought or a new habitual feeling, what would it even be? And then we take the strategies and the research-backed ways that we do it, and we apply it to our thinking and feeling in the exact same way. And for your listeners, it's reps. We get repetitions in, just like a bicep curl. We get it in with our thoughts that we're practicing, and we get it in with the emotions that we're practicing too.
That is powerful medicine.
Such powerful medicine. It's wild. And we do this when people first start working with me, we identify, what is a belief? Because a belief is just a thought we have thought so many times that we think it's true. And for me, my belief when I was diagnosed was, my life will always be just a little bit worse with MS. Like, there's no way I can have as good of a life. And recognizing that, I decided I don't want to believe that, because what we think we become. And so if I believe that, I will create a life that is a little bit worse. And so it started with a thought that I practiced for years of, you know what, Amy, it's possible my life doesn't have to be worse. And if you are in a similar state and you think that something in your health is worse, or you think that maybe you shouldn't be feeling this way, kind of how you mentioned when you don't feel great, if you can find a bridge or a ladder thought that includes the possibility that it could be better, or that maybe this isn't the worst thing, or that maybe this should be happening, if we can find that, you kind of feel the relief, or for me, a curiosity of, okay, maybe I will look for different ways. I mean, if I didn't have that curiosity that maybe life could be better with this diagnosis, I never, ever, ever would have reached out and started working with my first mindset coach. And so your actions will change when you're thinking and feeling in different ways, leaning towards more of a life that you want.
I have so many thoughts here, but mostly I'm just eating up every word. And I can hear the influence of the sciences in it. And like you said, you've applied this to your own body. You have lived it. So you coach from a place of true embodiment and
Yeah,
wisdom.
repeatedly. And clients can see, I mean, it took 10 years. I would say a good 10 years of sticking with that shift to now. If you told me, Amy, your life would have been better if you didn't have this diagnosis, it is so deep in my bones that that is not true for me, that I wouldn't even entertain that thought. I would say that's wildly inaccurate. You know what I mean? And so that's the goal. And I think that what my clients see is I am always planting new seeds of belief with them. So that was really the first decade of my work, getting there. And now, the one that I was working on almost all of last year was seeding the belief that, you know what, maybe the speed that that life is going is not for me, and that's okay. Or maybe it's actually even better and I don't need to keep up with anything. And so it's been a lot of practicing the repetitions of, you know what? Maybe slow is where it's at. What is the beauty of going slow here? And doing that, coming back to it, practicing it, and finding evidence where slowness is a beautiful thing. Again, a year later, I'm like, God, I am really loving more slow living. And it's not just, man, I wish that I believed that. It's we come up with a plan and we treat it again like any other training plan, except it's just that internal. It's for those inner habits.
Is this where can we segue into this common ground that you and I share as coaches and philosophy? And I think it's really interesting that we made this connection. And as two people who live with autoimmune who also work in the coaching space. So I call them the 3Ds: discipline, drive, determination.
I would love to. Tell me, I want to hear it from you what the 3Ds mean to you, because when I heard you speaking on it, like you mentioned, I instantly was like, oh my gosh, we're coming to the same thing through two different routes, but they're beautifully aligned. So I would love, if you don't mind, can I hear what your Ds means to you?
Sure, yeah. I worked on this a lot as I was doing a rebrand. I want to say 4 years ago when I just got into the weeds on my vision of WebWell and what I wanted to create and those parts of myself that I felt I could really bring to the table with the client. And my background is also as an athlete. I ran a lot recreationally after playing sports, but discipline, that's the order that I put them in. Discipline is both a discipline, it's a thing you practice at and get better at, right? It's just like it's a musical instrument, it's a language, it's an art, it's a trade, a profession, it's an entity, a thing. And it's a way in which we approach the thing. And what I've found is, I've been injured a lot as well. And when you're injured, it becomes a discipline and you approach the healing and recovery process with the same discipline that you be using to train for your sport or the thing. It's still discipline and it's still a piece of the pie. And it still requires the act of commitment in order to do the thing. So that's why to me, and discipline, I am a very disciplined human being in my execution of life,
Yeah.
in the way I show up and in the way I practice my health and wellness as well, right? Like I was raised by, my father was in the military and I come from a military family.
No
So I
surprise.
didn't leave
Yeah.
the house until that bed was made,
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I do now as an adult, I'm like, something's really wrong.
Yeah.
But that to me is discipline. And then drive is a mindset and an attitude, not a pace. So I have the drive to live a good life. I have the drive and the will to love those around me, be a good person, the drive to stay healthy for as long as I can in my body. Like, this is my body. This is what I've got for life. How can I take care of it in a way that it's going to be able to continue to show up for me, to live my life through it, right? That's how I think of drive. And I'm grateful that I have it, and sometimes someone just needs to lean on my drive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, my job as a trainer as well. Like, not everybody loves working out or wants to, but if I can loan them some of my drive as we get going in this habit, then I think that's a benefit. And then determination is, I suspect that you would say from your coaching mindset that you can train it. And again, it's like, what am I going to direct that focus toward? And I am determined to, get better at this thing that I'm showing up for with a beginner's mind, if that makes sense. So not expecting that I'm good at everything, but the determination to execute on the plan that I've set out before me
Yeah.
is
So this, I
how.
mean, it's interesting to see if you kind of agree with me and what jumped out at me, but so many people when it comes to habits, they just want to feel motivated, right? There's this old proverb that, you know, if there's no wind, you have to row. So picture, rowing in a boat. When the wind is at our back, that's like motivation. It almost feels like we don't have to do any work. It's like, God, this is easy. But when there is no wind, if we want to keep going, we need to row, right? So this is learning how to row. This is my 3 steps of motivation are learning how to keep doing the thing that our bodies and our brains want in a way that feels good, even when it doesn't feel easy. And so the first one is, no surprise, it kind of goes along with how we've been talking, our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And so it starts with our thoughts, our belief that the thing we want to do, whether it's a workout, whether it's eating a certain food, any habit that we want to build, we need to believe it's possible and we need to believe that it matters, right? Our head. So I love alliteration. So our head will be the belief that it's possible and that it matters. Because I promise you, if you don't believe something's possible or you don't believe it matters, you will never feel motivated to do it. The second piece is the heart. So we have the head, we need the heart on board. We have to have a desire to do it. So I think that matches up with the drive. If we don't
Desire.
want to do something, again, it's going to feel really hard to be motivated if we don't have a true desire. And that matches up with what we know about the habit research, that the number one habit absolute that they find is, guys, we got to be going for things that we want. And if we are trying to want things that we don't want, we need to figure out a new way. We either need to learn something new about it, we need to shift it in a way that makes sense for us and our values, but we need that desire, we need our heart. And so the first one, yours was determination. I kind of put that with the belief. And then the drive, I put that with the heart or the desire. And then the last one is we need our hands, head, heart, hands. We need to commit to action. So that goes with discipline. Like, sometimes, the belief is there. I want it so bad. Maybe what's missing is just a little commitment on your part. It could be signing up with a coach. It could be in my group program. That's what people say. It's like, this is the commitment where I'm kind of putting myself in this space. So the days I don't feel like it, well, I've paid the money. I've put in the effort to join this thing. And even a gym membership is a type of commitment device because you're saying ahead of time something of value. So later you're like, okay, well, I have this gym membership. So yeah, so head, heart, hands, and really the belief, the desire, and the commitment, when those all align, that's when it starts to feel like the wind is at our back and we start to feel
Mm.
motivated.
I like it. I like it a
Similar.
lot. It's so
Yeah.
similar, and I'm visualizing a graphic that I wanna use as when I roll out our podcast with head, heart, hands, discipline, drive, determination. I don't know.
Yeah, I love
We'll have
it.
to ask old ChatGPT to do something original with that.
I love it. And really what, again, pulling from the research, what we know about one of the reasons that change can feel so hard is that if we don't have a way to make sense of the things we're learning, to be able to recall them and apply them to our life, then it can kind of get lost in the chaos of all the information that's out there. And so that's why I create frameworks. Following a framework is a way to help ground us and to help our brain remember and make sense of all the information being flooded at us. So I have another framework. It's called the Habit Hub for Autoimmune Health, and it covers the 6 key areas of our lifestyle that when we optimize our habits in these areas, we feel better and we function at our best. And so again, that framework is a gift for us, and I'm living it right alongside my clients, where no matter who you see spewing off different health advice and trends and fads and tips and tricks, everything makes sense in one of these 6 key areas. So again, you can sort it, you can figure out, where does this fit in my balanced routine and my balanced approach to wellness, so that you don't have to feel like everything is scattered. It makes sense because we're coming at it with a framework that's holistic and balanced.
It's really smart, right? You don't build a house by just throwing up the walls. You need a foundation to rest on, and I like how you're talking about evaluating all of the information coming at us as well. Like, you don't even have to try to be fed something you weren't looking for.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then we're constantly, like, assessing, how does this fit? It's
Yeah.
a nice visual to, like, does this align with these 6 things? If not, I can move it aside.
Yeah, and we all have something else that bonds people with a diagnosis is there are parts of our health and life that we cannot control. We are not pretending that those don't exist. There are very real symptoms and genetics that we cannot control. But what these 6 key areas are of the Habit Hub for Autoimmune Health, these are the controllables. So what we're signing up for is We want to control the things we can control and not worry about the rest. It's the same thing with the information. People will say, I'm just so overwhelmed. It's too much information. We can't control that, but what can we control is the filter of what we put up and what we let in. And so that can be, turning down the noise, not having to read every single article, not listening to every single podcast. And I say that
Yeah.
as two people with podcasts. We are
Right?
providing information. On my podcast, every episode has a do of the day. So you do not, I say that like as if I can control all my listeners, but I would love for them not to listen without taking me up on my invitation to put it into action in their life, because that is where we start to see change. A little bit less consuming and a little bit more doing and implementing. Because back to what we started, that's where we take information that we know in our brain, but we really start to feel it and know it in our bodies.
Wow. Again, letting that all sink in. And I'm really intrigued now on what those 6 things are. Are you comfortable sharing those with us, or is that something
Absolutely.
proprietary to your
Gosh,
coaching
no.
program?
Gosh, no, I'm an open book.
At a high level, what are those 6 things that we can filter life through?
Here's the good thing, guys. Nothing I'm saying here is going to be things you haven't heard before. So we're not like inventing new things. It's the basics. If we all went back to basics, we would all feel pretty darn good. But it's the basics that sometimes get missed. So number one, I call them spokes because it's a hub, is mindset. So although mindset is behind all of the outer habits, the other 5, it is the ultimate inner habit and it deserves its own spoke, because we can work on our thoughts and our feelings. And that's just as actionable the way we do it as working on how we eat and how we move. So mindset's number 1. Number 2 is food. We all know that we need to fuel these bodies with good quality food and not too much junk. Number 3 is movement. So that is another obvious here, that our bodies were made to move. And even if a diagnosis throws off the way that we once loved to get movement, how do we adapt? How do we get creative? And how do we keep giving our bodies what they need? The 4th one is rest and relaxation. So this is all things sleep and really getting a hold of stress and tapping into what we know about giving our nervous system some love. Number 5 is connection. If I had a favorite spoke, I shouldn't have a favorite one, but that's my favorite spoke. I will talk about it all day long. I will share and invite people to make connection a habit. And it's so tempting to be like, well, no, that should just be natural. No, I promise you, if you come in and we spend a whole month in the club every 6 months on connection, by the end of it, the club is my group coaching program. People by the end of it are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that how loved people feel, because, when we make connection a habit that's very intentional, it feels good. Even if you already feel like your connections are good, it is really nourishing and fun to think about connection in that way. And then the last one is one that you don't hear about quite as often, but I call it the good stress, and I'm putting air quotes around good. That is another word for it would be like hormesis, where we take on a challenge because we know that when we do, we'll come out a little bit stronger on the other side. Listeners here know physical good stress, lifting weights. We're going to be sore because we're breaking down that muscle, but we know it's building. In addition to just physical good stress, we also can stress ourselves metabolically. So that can be different levels of fasting, hot, cold therapy. We can stress our bodies in a good way cognitively, the challenges that we take on to keep ourselves sharp. And we can also stress ourselves in good ways emotionally, kind of recognizing when maybe we are avoiding a tough emotion. And if we took the time to sit with it, feel it, allow it, we would come out, a bit stronger and a bit better off on the other side.
Thank you for sharing those. I like your analogy of the spoke. And are those 6 part of what you refer to as the inner habits and the outer habit?
Absolutely. So the inner really is mindset. So how we're thinking and feeling,
Got it.
the things you can't necessarily see me doing, but are driving my day, right? I have a narrative just like everybody else as we walk around. How am I talking to myself? What am I thinking about the world? How am I feeling? Those are the inner habits that we can build and shape and shift. And then the outer ones are the more typical type of habits that can help us lead a healthy life as well.
Food, the movement, the outward practices or
Absolutely.
disciplines. Yeah, that
Absolutely.
I'm really enjoying the interplay of my 3Ds with your heart,
I
hands,
am,
and head.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
and
really
I had to create the Habit Hub again out of personal necessity. I spent years like going all in on food and movement. I neglected rest. I neglected mindset. As I always said, you cannot outnourish a crappy mindset. And if I was focusing too much on food, then all of a sudden I was saying no to meals out because I didn't want that inflammatory oil, but I'm missing the connection of being with people. So
yeah.
when you see it in the hub, you recognize this all fits together, guys. Like it all leads to a life that we feel like we love to show up for. And we don't need to do it all at once, which is the beautiful part. We get to choose an area that's calling us, start there. Because as we build the skill of how to make habits in each area, that skill transfers when you want to go and jump to another spoke. So we kind of get to trust that, you know what, we're learning this skill of how to listen to ourselves, how to respond, how to show ourselves love, and ultimately make habits in a way that doesn't feel like deprivation, which is how a lot of people come at it.
Yeah, and I think so. I think when you do have, let's call it any kind of health thing, whether it's a chronic illness, autoimmune, um, a goal, it's so easy to hold this tight rein on it and think that we have to be perfect in the execution of it or else, right? Like I remember in college as I was taking all my exercise science classes and nutrition, and I just became a little bit over obsessed with food for a couple years.
Same.
And
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
easy to do.
it's easy to do when you're learning what happens in the body from these
Yeah.
macronutrients, and at the cellular level, you can literally visualize what's happening. And I remember like, no, 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 I don't eat after 8 o'clock. No, I only have dessert on Saturdays. If I've done all my workouts, then I can have a little treat. And it was so austere and limiting. And I drove people around me crazy. That I know
Yeah.
for certain.
Oh, yeah.
And I had some chapters. First it was food, then it was triathlon, then it was this, then it was that. And like,
Yep.
I guess it was the application of the learning to myself. And now you can't get me to measure food now. Like I'll measure it if it's in a recipe that I'm making, but on the daily, I want nothing to do with measuring my macros.
Same.
It's like I've
Same.
been there, done that. I don't need to do that anymore. I can just
Yeah.
enjoy a plate of food.
Yeah, so many people come and they, lovingly think that I'm gonna give them a food plan or I'm gonna tell them what to eat. And very quickly, some people will be like, "Never mind, I need a plan." But usually I'll say, "Do you have something that you'd like to be eating?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, let's start there." Like, you don't need we don't need a plan. We don't if anything, I'm making sure they're adding in I call it a feel-good food protocol. It's a protocol that they write, and it's not just what you eat, but it's also how you eat, who you eat with, are as an eater. And it's interesting because I'm usually having to remind them, where is the joy eating in this? Where is the food that lights you up and connecting with people and, different things. And honestly, it can be so loving because our bodies, when we are eating really healthy food in a stressed out state because we're worried about, again, what are the macronutrients or is this affecting me? It's going to not take very well in our body. If we're eating a delicious something cooked by a loved one, but we are relaxed, our bodies know how to handle that too. You know?
What a
Yeah.
gorgeous thought.
Yeah.
That there
Absolutely.
that there's room for love and joy in this whole journey of being in our bodies.
Oh my gosh, not only room for it, but man, when that's driving, like when love is the strategy for habit change, you cannot lose. And I think that there is what I call gentle love, that eat that thing or do that thing or take that rest. But you know what? All of us know when we need tough love too. And if we're the ones giving it to us, that again goes to your determination and your discipline. We will balance out. And I promise you, if you give yourself permission to do what feels good, it may feel like it's all going to go to crap and you're going to, go off the rails, but I promise you, you will come back to what feels good.
That, Amy, I think is a beautiful note to end on
Awesome. I love
because of
it.
its positive focus. And I mean, love is life. And I wasn't expecting you to go there at all, but yeah, love has to have a place in this, and self-love and body love and
That's so
embodiment,
true.
all of it.
Yeah. And that's a feeling, again, that I set as a habit goal years ago, where I want to habitually fall into love for myself, for others. And, again, doing the repetitions, finding thoughts that have me feel loving, finding actions that show my love.
Mm.
My body's really comfortable with it and it goes there quickly. It really is the habitual feeling that I want to keep as the habitual feeling. Nothing feels better than love.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for all you do. And you have mindful in the name. That's the inner habits at work. So I love it. I love it. And I love the work you're doing. I appreciate the invitation and you're just such a joy to talk with.
Likewise, I feel like I have a new colleague in the world, and I'm really
Yay!
grateful.
Let's
Please tell us how we can connect with you, and especially how we can listen to your podcast.
Yeah, you're listening to podcasts. You obviously like podcasts. My podcast is called Autoimmune Health Secrets, and I reveal some secrets about how to have more autoimmune health. So a lot of the things we're talking about, how do we find habits and follow through on them in a way that, again, feels loving. So I love hanging out there in terms of kind of living this approach and learning it. I coach inside Club Habit Hub. So as you can imagine, it uses the Habit Hub as our framework to ensure that we're hitting all the spokes in a methodical, beautiful, balanced way. And we do it in a club because self-efficacy is built when we see other people doing the things that we want to be doing. And when we do it together and when we celebrate together. And even if you're somebody who thinks, goodness, I don't want to do this in a group, there is something so unexpected and magical when you don't have to be the most out there revealing yourself, but just seeing other people going through it really is proven to help boost self-efficacy. So I call it the club for short, but yeah, I would invite anybody to come and do this work with me because I'm living it as well. And that can all be found at my website, which is www.amybeheimercoaching.com.
Fantastic. And all of that will be in the written show notes too, everybody. So you'll be able to
Awesome.
find that and link up. Well,
Thank
Amy,
you,
thank you
Melanie.
again. It's been lovely. Take
All right.
good
Thank
care.
you.
I hope you're walking away with this truth, dear listeners. Your diagnosis does not define your discipline. Your symptoms do not eliminate your self-efficacy. And your mindset is not, in fact, fixed. It's trainable. Amy was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 14 years ago, and instead of letting chronic illness shrink her world, she expanded it. She built habits. She strengthened her mindset. She learned. She leaned into connection. And she turned discipline, drive, and determination into daily practices. I'm so inspired. What I loved most about this conversation is the reminder that habits are not just what we do with our hands. They're what we think in our heads and what we feel in our hearts. The head, the heart, the hands. Wow, did I need that reminder? That framework alone is a gift. If you are living with multiple sclerosis, an autoimmune condition, or any chronic illness, please hear this. You are not alone. Mindset is a huge part of this journey, and Amy just reminded us that connection, community, love, those are not soft ideas. They are powerful drivers of health. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs encouragement today. Leave a review. Send it to a friend navigating autoimmune health. The more we normalize these conversations, the stronger our collective self-efficacy becomes. And if you're ready to build habits that actually support your body, not fight it, be sure to check the show notes for Amy's Habit Hub for autoimmune health and the resources we mentioned. I'll have them all written down there. Thank you for being here. Keep moving, keep believing, and remember, your mindset is powerful. I'll see you next week on The Mindful Trainer. And if you want to explore more conversations like this, make sure you're subscribed to The Mindful Trainer. You can also visit webwell.com for training resources, outdoor-inspired wellness tools, and ways to work with me as you build your own body equity and resilience. The Mindful Trainer is the official podcast of WebWell. I'm your host, Melanie Webb. I'm also the founder and master trainer at WebWell. To learn more about WebWell and all we have to offer, please visit webwell.com.